Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tuesdays with Forward. I feel like we've been doing this for pretty much forever at this point. Um, I'm Jen Gray. I'm Artistic Director of Forward. Really happy to be here with the intrepid Scott Hayden, as usual, making all of the magic happen. And really grateful to Tim Sauers, who's the Vice President of Programming and Community Engagement at Overture Center for the Arts, with us tonight. And Tim, anyone who's a follower and lover of the performing arts in Madison knows that there were some big announcements last week from Overture Center and then from all of us that are resident there. Right. And so I just thought, this could be a good opportunity to have a conversation about what is going on at Overture and what are all these, crazy factors that we're all dealing with in figuring out when we can open. And please, if you're listening to this live, anyone from home, feel free to drop a question or a comment in the chat, and Scott will make sure that we see those. So Tim, I feel like everybody who sets foot in Overture already knows you, but maybe you could just do a quick little, this is who I am and what I do at Overture Center.
Yeah, I'm Vice President as Jen said, I'm Vice President of Programming and Community Engagement. So I oversee all of the 20 plus programs that we offer to the community, whether they're performance programs in the building or the work that we do out in the communities. And, some of the big programs that people know is Overture Presents, which is our presenting season, and Broadway at Overture, the Jer Awards. And so I also oversee marketing at this time. And I have been in that role for a few months. So it's all good, right? It's all good.
We're all, learning some new skills. I'm looking at you, Scott Hayden, right now.
That's for sure.
Covering some different
responsibilities. It is amazing how we rise to the occasion, though, isn't it? As humans, it's amazing how we just go, yes, we're going to do it and we're going to figure it out and we move forward. And that's one nice thing I can say about the arts community nationally is we're all in, that slogan, we're all in this together, but we really are all in this together. And, we're one of the industries that have been, hit pretty hard in all of this. And we're all trying to figure out what that looks like on the other side.
And how. So walk us through, I've been privileged to be involved in some of these conversations, heading up a resident company at Overture, but just walk us through some of the what these last few months have been like for you and the rest of the leadership team at Overture.
Well, back in that Friday the 13th of March, when the world closed down, we had to start thinking about what does this look like. And, originally we're going to be closed to mid-April, we're going to be closed to the end of April, and it's going to hurt just we had Wicked in the building, and the Wicked set is still sitting in our building, and it's going to be sitting there until they move on to whatever they do their first show. And we have a great agreement with them. They're a great company. And so then we had to kind of start figuring out, this is going to last forever. We're all involved in webinars. We're all involved with figuring out what's happening here. We originally canceled some of our shows or rescheduled some of our shows at the beginning. And then as this started to move more and longer, we made a decision one day, well, we have enough information now to know that we're not going to know, and that we need to develop a preservation plan to assure that Overture Center is a home to all the resident companies and our work past this pandemic. And so as we did that, we had to take a look at our finances and decide, what is it going to look like on the other side? How much money are we going to need to get through all of this to be able to do this? And of course, unfortunately, along the way, we had to reduce staff, and we announced a closure through the end of November with our work to be able to do that financially to get through this crisis. And, it's a lot of, there was 2 waves of rescheduling shows and canceling shows, those that were in the 1920 season, and now all the ones that are in the fall for the 2021 season. And it's complicated. One of our biggest pieces is Broadway, of course. And they announced this week their closure until January, which was a shock for some people. And I was like, really? That was a shock? But, but I guess it's because I'm so involved in the business. I knew that was how that was coming. And that, of course, affects all the shows on the road because, nothing is touring right now this summer. And so for Broadway tours to go back on the road, it's very complicated. And it takes them a long time to do that. And so they're working on it, and they're working on a big plan for what it looks like on the road, for not only for audiences, but also for the cast and the crew and everybody involved in the show to keep everybody safe and, allow the product to be what the product is in the shows. And so, for us, fortunately, for our Broadway in the fall, we're fortunate that we're able to shift the whole season. So we were able to shift the whole season. There might be some changes that you'll hear about, but we were able to shift the whole season into next year's calendar year. So that was a plus for us. Not everybody fared as well as we did in terms of when their shows are scheduled and even on the tours, because some of the tours have already announced that they're closed and they're not even going to go out for next season. So, figuring out all the finances and then figuring out what the product is, like what are we going to end up doing? And, it affects all of our shows and it affects all of our programs. And one of them that really bothered me, the Jer Awards, which is our big high school musical theater program, we saw 88 shows this year and another 24 to see that were closed down. And we wanted to figure out a way to honor them. And so we did a virtual show that featured the outstanding musicals and the leads. And we did these production numbers and it was really well received. I felt like when I was watching it that night that I was actually in the venue hosting the show and I had that same kind of satisfaction at the end. And that was really very rewarding to be able to do that, to celebrate these, the great work that they do in these high schools, because that's our fuel for fueling that all out into the world in later life, right?
Yeah, I feel like I have to shout out the La Follette High School production of 13 because I know that they won a number of Jer Awards this year. And anyone who knows Forward knows that over this past year, we've actually adopted that high school theater program.
Right.
And so we've been, sending mentors out throughout the year and audition coaches and support for stage management. Scott's been helping with marketing, really trying to help build up their program. So I know they were also excited about their Jerry nominations and awards. And they were one of the fortunate spring musicals where they got their first weekend in and then they had to close without their second weekend, but at least they got it up. So shout out to all our Lancers.
I think that's great that you serve as a mentor to them. I think that's a great kind of partnership.
It's been a great partnership that, it's a wonderful school with incredible and passionate students and a great director of their program, but just really underfunded and undersupported. So it was a really natural need for us to just step into. So it's been a really rewarding, and we will certainly be continuing it this year in whatever form it can be.
Right.
One of the things that I don't know if folks out in the community really know this, but an additional challenge for you and the rest of the really exceptional leadership team at Overture has been, of course, that, Overture's wonderful CEO, Sandra Gayesh, passed away a few months ago after a battle with cancer. And Overture was kind of in the process of a search for her replacement when all of this happened. And I know from our conversations and from the press releases that search is on hold. And I have to imagine that really increased a lot of pressure on you and all of the other VPs running Overture. But I do have to say, having been working with all of you so much in these last months, while I'm sure it makes things more complicated, I also think it's led you to really, really smart and collaborative team leadership that I think has benefited the building and the organization, even if it's been harder for you.
I think it's a model to look at. We went through leadership development really last summer to really build us as a team. And then unfortunately, Sandra passed away last and end of last summer. It's almost a year now.
Oh my God.
Right? Like, I think it was like September or something. And then, we as a group decided we didn't want an interim. We didn't need someone else to come in and so we put a proposal together for the board, what the next 6 months to a year could look like with us in leadership and as a transition was happening. And the board put their faith and trust in us, and we've been moving forward ever since. Little did everybody know we have a pandemic in the middle of this, right? Yeah. We're like, yay! But it's really we're all CEOs respectively in our areas, and then collaboratively as teams. Yeah. And it has built a really great. We built this preservation plan, and then in the middle of it, where it was like, this isn't the right time for a CEO to come in. You're looking for a candidate also that, we didn't want somebody who was going to dump their organization in the middle of this and move forward. We had candidates that, backed out of the search process during that time, and respectfully so. Mm-hmm. And so we're continuing to move forward as a team, and we do our work on consensus. We have our disagreements, and at the end of the day, we come to an agreement that we get behind and we move forward with it. Yeah. And building this plan was a huge achievement, I think, for all of us. And the other thing that I like that's happening is and this is part of the having a leadership team, but it's also about the pandemic, is we're just becoming closer to everybody. Like I didn't do a lot of work with the resident companies prior to this, but now Jackie and I, that's one of our projects together, and it has been great getting to know everybody and to build unity. And the day that we all made our own announcements together to show that we're a unified force in this building and a bigger voice than just any one of us all together, I think that's great. And I've been doing the same on the statewide with the Marcus Center and Fox Valley, as we have weekly meetings to talk about the industry as a whole, and then what's happening in the state. And it's just made us all closer, I think. And I love that piece of it. Right?
Yeah, we've been, there was a while there where we were meeting every single week. Now it's every other week as we settle into this, current normal. I'm not going to call it the new normal, but our current normal. And yeah, the communication has really been so strong. And I think it's helping all of us figure out what to do, because none of us in our training or our experience have, been taught or shown how to lead arts organizations during a pandemic. So, it really helps to have such, a big team of colleagues to figure it out together. It's not on anyone's shoulders alone.
And everybody is doing it together. That's the other thing. It's not like sure, you might have some, on opposing opinions and stuff, but boy, everybody is respectful. It's just really lovely. I think it's just so lovely.
So go ahead, Scott.
You made me think of something. We work with the digital marketing team at Overture Center on a regular basis, and digital media is a big part of any arts organization from a marketing or advertising standpoint. But something that I've noticed Overture has shifted or pivoted is to start creating more digital content, just in general, not even from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah, that's right.
For patrons to take on. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we have an Access the Arts at Home that you can find on our website. And we did our season announcement this year in April virtually, and it was very, very successful. And then we did the Jerry's, and that was very, very successful. And we just co-hosted a project that we're involved with Carnegie Hall called the Lullaby Project, and that was very successful. And there's a need right now and a desire right now to stay connected with the community over the work. And for us to be able, we're not a producer, so we don't have artists necessarily that content that we can just put, but we can share other people's content and, let people know what's happening out there in the world. And we're devising a full plan now that will run through December with some special projects along the way that we're going to create some virtual shows. That will be one of them I can't talk about, but I'm so excited. It's a Halloween inspired show in October.
Ooh, teaser.
And just about the building and about the stories and about the, and so it's great to be able to have access to do this. And as Scott said, we have a great digital team in place that love the creativity of being able to do this, as opposed to just marketing shows and programs and all of that. And
Yeah.
Totally fun. And everything is being well received. We're doing a regular right now Kids in the Rotunda project each week, and we're featuring artists, and that's, you know, keeping families engaged and giving them some content to do with, because, you know, that's a huge program for us during the year, Kids in the Rotunda. And, you know, what will it look like after a pandemic, I don't know, but
yeah,
we know what it looks like during a pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Right, with the virtual programming. Yeah,
that's right. So and there are no answers to this yet, obviously, but questions. You know, what are some of the things that you and the rest of the leadership team are going to be looking at as you begin to target reopening? You know, what are the factors
we're all involved in different sectors. We're developing our reopening plan. We're also working with some state venues to look at what are the guidelines for opening. If it's a regular kind of opening, what do we need to have in place? You know, we have to look at the safety and health of our audiences, our artists, our staff. And so, you know, I'm imagining, you know, look what security came into play after 9/11, and now it's going to be the health and safety after a pandemic. And I think no matter if the pandemic is over, we're still going to have some new protocols in place, because you know what this has made me feel? How dirty our world is, right? Like you look at everything, and like, you know, we're following forward, and when we're able to reopen again, when to have large gatherings. And so that's number one on our reopening kind of plan now, and it's all about health and safety. And then what we have to do, and then, you know, what we have to budget for to be able to have the services available for people. And, you know, it's hard because you can't plan it too early, because it changes, right? Like people were all ready to go out and buy temperature scanners and all this stuff a couple months ago. I'm like, chill, people. We don't even know if we're going to be needing those in a while.
Yeah.
But we do know that we need sanitizer, and we do know that we need to have, you know, a better cleaning protocols, as opposed to, not that our building is dirty now, but when you think about all the people going through there, particularly with like one of your weeks and a Broadway week where it's all those multiple performances, you know, that's a lot of people trekking through the doors and cleaning up after.
Yeah.
And for them to come in and feel safe. Because if an audience isn't going to feel safe, they aren't going to come back right away. It's going to take a while.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can only imagine, you know, it's so complicated on our end, you know, and we are producers, like we at least sort of control all of those pieces of the puzzle of the artists that we're bringing in and the technicians that build the sets and all of that. And for you, you've got the building to operate and to figure out how to operate it in a safe and secure way. But then you're also at the mercy of all of the presenters, or, you know, all of the folks creating the productions that you bring in as a presenter. I mean, of course, they're all at the mercy of the pandemic too, as you know, as we are. But that adds such another layer of complication that I don't know if people fully realize that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, say you have a tour. Say look at somebody like, let's say some music performer, right? That's going to go out, or like Jazz at Lincoln Center. You know, they're routing a tour for so many weeks when they're out there, right? So they have to make sure that the venues are there for them to have the tour. And, you know, a venue closes down or a venue shuts up, then their tour starts to fall apart. And so they have to deal with the same things. And then they have to deal with the health and safety of their artists. And then if it's a union show, there's going to be different protocols in place for, union workers, whether they're an IATSE stagehand or an equity performer. So that's another level of it. And, with the agreements that we have and the contracts that we have, like I was talking to an agent the other day, and, we have what is called a force majeure in a contract. And that means if, an act of God or something happens that
say a global pandemic.
Well, that's a new one, and you should see that language now come out all over the place, right? Everybody's changing what all that looks like. And I was talking to an agent the other day, and we were rescheduling a show from the fall to the next year. A lot of these agents are looking a year out. They're not even going to bother with 3 months or 4 months. And it was funny when this whole process started. Some of the bigger agents, like last spring, was saying, we're going to look for April of next year. And then others were saying, oh, we'll look at July or August, right? And we see those don't have, but those had vision that year out. And I was like, I'm going to follow your vision on this because you know something or you feel something too with it, right? The way that goes out. But I was talking to an agent and she was like, I said something. I said, well, wouldn't that be a force majeure? She said, the force majeure is off the table right now. She goes, it's anything goes. And I will say, I noticed when I've sent to say, I want to reschedule or cancel, there is no one giving you any hassle. Right. Because, Overture is not the only venue that's in suspension for the fall. There are many. And there are some across the country that just says we're closed indefinitely. And then there's some strategies that people are doing is they're just announcing every 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, we don't want to do that for our audiences and our patrons and our companies, because it seems like, to me, the boy who cried wolf, here we go again. Eventually, people are going to stop with that. So we want to make sure that we have trust with our patrons, that they can trust us. And so,
yeah. Tim, I don't know if you see this question here that Scott put up, but how have the staffing changes impacted how the leadership team's able to complete their tasks?
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, during the next 3 months, it is about essential work, and it's the essential staff who are working, and that includes, the director of the building has to be in the building, and there's a cleaning person and a tech person, but there's not full staffs. Or programming, we cut down to what do we need to do with our shows, with our promoter shows that come in, with any kind of programming that we're going to do, but we weren't going to create new work in order so it's essential. And then there's marketing support, development, of course, is going to be fundraising through this time, so they were essential. Finance was essential. They're starting their audit tomorrow, right? And ticket office is essential to everybody in the building and everything that's happening with changes with that. So it's made us focus our work. And there are some things that we're not able to do, and we know we're not able to do it, and we're not going to do it.
Yeah. Triage. Right? We're all in the triage business.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Tim, it's been nearly half an hour. I think we can let everyone get on with their Tuesday evening. And you as well. I know the time flies.
Right.
Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. You know that I care so much for the whole Overture staff, and you all are doing, everyone in the arts is doing heroic work right now. It's really challenging, and it's impressive and inspiring to see colleagues stepping up the way all of you are. And like you said at the beginning, we're all in it together.
And we've all been scrappy our lives, right?
Yeah,
exactly. I think, when I'm hiring, right, people, and somebody's coming from a theater background, they can do it all, right? Like there's so many skills that you learn through that. And now we're using them effectively.
Creative thinkers. That's what we are.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks to everyone who was listening.
Yeah, thank you.
Join us next week. Thank you, Scott. And be well, everybody. Stay safe out there.
Thank you, Tim.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.